All right, to set up a new course, you're just going to add a new course, and from there you can go in and put your course name, your full name, and this is what's going to show up when students see it. So for the course name, I'm just going to put Moodle for e-modules. So I'm just going to create what you're going to look at today. And for the short name, it's what shows up for students. So sometimes I like to just put the full name, but really it depends. If it's a long title, then you just want to shorten it up. You can put a course summary that'll show up if you have a long list of courses. It's sometimes a good idea to break it down. So this is a course for teachers interested in setting up a Moodle course or using an e-module. And then you get to choose your format. The topics format lets you put a title for each frame, or you can do a weekly format that breaks it down obviously by weeks. My favorite one is the topics format. I've never used the social format, not sure what that's really all about. The SCORM format just allows you to be able to transfer it into different online programs. So I'm going to take the topics format. I don't muck around with the course date, start date, but you can if you don't want something to start until a couple weeks out. And I like to just leave it alone. News items to show up at the very top, or when you have news, it'll limit it. So if you have a lot of things that you're announcing to students, it'll make it a little smaller, a little more manageable. Show gradebook to students. I like to put yes. They probably like to see their grade. Their activity reports, what they've completed, what they haven't completed. You can do yes or no for this, but basically this, if you click the question mark, it'll explain it a little bit better for you. But you have to, I like to keep the screen as clean as I can for students, so I always put no. But again, personal preference. Maximum upload size. If you're going to be using, if you're going to be having students upload a lot of files or movies, you want to keep that in mind. For the theme, if you choose a theme, it's really what the screen looks like. I would pick a favorite one and get used to it, because each theme that you pick, it looks a little bit different for the enrollment methods. The screen layout's a little bit different for submitting quizzes. So I would just pick one and stick with it. I have a favorite one. I like Serenity. So I go with that. And then your topic, number of weeks or topics, you can change this as you go through the course, but it's the number of frames that appear on the screen. So I'm going to go small for this one, and I'm just going to say 4, but I can always go back in and add more later. Hidden sections for those frames, if you pick completely invisible, it cleans the screen up. Shown in collapsible form, then you're able, or students are able, to open it up because they'll see that there's a frame there. Again, I like to just keep the screen as clean as I can. For course layout, I usually go with putting it all on one page, but if your course gets really long, really lengthy, you could do one section per page. But again, I like to just keep the screen clean and keep it all on one page, but my courses are shorter courses. Guest access, that's completely up to you. If you can do yes, and then you can leave the password off and anyone can get in and look at things. If you're doing groups or groupings, I feel like that sometimes messes with it. So if a student accidentally goes in as a guest, then you have to manually enroll them and figure out why they didn't get the assignments that they needed. For group mode, if you put no groups, then the whole class will always be doing the same thing. If you pick separate groups, you can designate students to be in certain groups, and they cannot see the work from the other groups. If you pick visible groups, you can still put them into groups, but they can see what the other groups are working on. I like separate groups, but that's because, again, I like to keep the screen as clean as possible for students because it gets very wordy and busy. By forcing group mode, if students enroll in your course with a group key, it does force them into the group. If you plan on not doing groups at all, you can make this a no, but whatever you put in this box, that's what gets defaulted for all of your activities. So default grouping, they have none, but this is what I'm going to get for all of my groups. The availability, this course is available to students. Yes, it is. Why not? You know, if they really want to go in and learn about Moodle, have at it. Force language, United States English. Student progress, if you put completion tracking, then they get a checkbox that appears over on the side of their screen that they can check off as they go for their different activities. And so I like to have that. Helps students realize they have to check boxes. And then also, if you're going to do activities where they have to complete one activity before the next one appears, you want to make sure that that's checked. And then if you wanted to rename your roles, which I don't, but if you had, if you wanted to break up in groups and you were doing literature circles or group work and you wanted to create different roles for your students, you could do that. You'd have to have some real leaders and you'd have to do some training. If you were going to have more than one adult working, more than one teacher, you might be able to play around with that, but really I just like to leave it blank, less work. And then you do save changes and your course will appear. It takes you though to this enrolled user. This is really important when you're setting up your courses, but I'm going to do this in a separate video because this is getting really long.